session. We'll get started right now. Welcome back everyone. Segal Group of Companies presents the third edition of the Multimodal Logistics Summit 2023, powered by Matchlog in association with Win-Win Maritime Limited, brought to you by Neva Sheva Shipping, co-presented by Accuracy Shipping, co-powered by Trans World Terminals. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go for the second session that you're all waiting for, I would like to invite Dr. Rajiv Srivastava, Senior Technical Service Manager, Marketing Division of Indian Oil Corporation, Gujarat State, to make a short presentation on Extra Green Diesel, the new age eco-friendly fuel for fleet management by Indian Oil Corporation. Let's take a look at what this is. May I invite Dr. Rajiv Srivastava on stage.
Good evening and good afternoon, because we are at the helm of finishing this afternoon. So, good evening gentlemen and all the ladies over here. I represent company Indian Oil Corporation, which is the energy of India. And I don't know if there will be anybody here who might not be knowing about Indian Oil Corporation. Being from Indian Oil Corporation brings a lot of responsibility on us in fulfilling the dreams of our country, our nation, that is India. We all know that how much the government of India is striving towards healthy environment, green environment, and about net zero emissions. So towards the strive towards net zero and net carbon emissions, we are also trying to put our contribution. As you know, India has promised UNESCO and the United Nations about achieving zero carbon emissions or zero net emissions carbon by 2070. But Indian Oil has always taken the initiative of achieving the targets well before this time. So Indian Oil has taken a commitment to achieve this target of zero carbon emissions by 2046. But as easily said, it's not as easily done. A lot of things has to be done for achieving this target. And everybody is trying to contribute of his own. I've seen a lot of presentations, a lot of discussions, and everybody is trying to achieve this target by either by increasing the fuel economy and all those things. But from energy of India, that is the Indian Oil point of view, what we are doing is that we have the greatest contribution in terms of providing fuel, that is energy to our nation, energy to all the fleets, whether it is marine or whether it's trucks, commercial vehicles, four-wheelers, two-wheelers, wherever there is requirement of energy, Indian Oil is there. So what we are doing in the field of fuel, then there is also one more field that we are also dealing with, that is the lubricants. When you talk about machines, you can't do without lubricants. And lubricant is one of the most important elements of any of the machines, whether it is a commercial vehicles, whether it's a marine, or whether it's a two-wheeler, or whatever you are using as an automobile for your personal use also. So we have been giving the target by Government of India to how to improvise the fuel economy, how to reduce the emissions of carbon dioxide. And in this regard, we have a R&D at Faridabad, very well-known R&D, one of the best in Asia. We, the scientists of IOCL, they have been working hard how to achieve this target which has been given to us, 2046 net zero emissions. So from the point of view lubricants and the fuels, we are going to discuss in our today's discussion or presentation. And I'm very happy to present this towards all the persons, because I know you are the decision makers about your fleets, about your fuel requirements, and I think that everybody will try to listen with all the focus so that they can improvise their savings as well as help the environment for a just cause. So let us start it. So everybody might have known about, if a person is a mechanical engineer, we know about the indicated power. Indicated power is basically the brake power that we get just out of the engine, and then there is the frictional power. That means whatever suppose we are burning any fuel, so what the power is being generated by the engine, much of the power is lost as a friction. So our concept of Indian Oil is to how to reduce this friction and how to improvise the combustion efficiency. That means there are two liquid things which are going inside the vehicle. One is the fuel, that is the combustion, that is the fuel for that provides energy. The second thing is the lubricant, which is there for reducing the friction. So we are working today's presentation about these two liquid aspects, that is the fuel and the lubricant. So one is that about the fuel part, another is the lubricant part. In the case of a fuel, we have come out with a very innovative diesel. That is because why we are talking about diesel is that most of the commercial vehicles in India, they are using diesel as their fuel, prime fuel. So if we can work with diesel, it will be great help for the fleet as well as the logistic industry. So in the case of a diesel, we have come out with an innovative approach, that is the extra green diesel. Can you help it out? I think it's missing on the screen. Yeah. There's a little bit of lag between buttons. Can you go to the second slide? Second slide. Yeah. So for the purpose of providing you fuel efficient or the green diesel, that is giving low carbon dioxide, we have come out with a fuel called extra green diesel. And for the lubricant part, we have come out with an innovative product called green combo lubricants, that's green lubricants. So this is our approach. So as you can see over there, so we are working on reducing the friction while we are talking about lubricants, and we are focusing on increasing the combustion efficiency when we are talking about the fuels. Next one, please. Yeah. This is the unique approach that we have adopted, and we have also got the patent from our Indian government. You can find it over there. So the work has been continuing for almost last 5 years, and after toiling for 5 years, we got this patent, which is a very unique of its kind in India, and we are very happy to project it before you. Next one. So what has gone inside with coming out with this green lubricants and the green fuel is about 3 years of development by multidisciplinary teams of fuels, additives, because when we talk about fuels, it's not only the fuel, it has also the additive system. Then also we are talking about the engine teams, because you have to test all those additives or the fuels on the engines. So we have done 3 years of development, almost collaboration by almost 5 to 10 scientists working as a team. We have done the lab analysis of all the formulas, because whether it's a lubricant or a fuel, basically it's an additive chemistry, and how does the fuel behave with this chemistry. So we have done we have 1800 different formulations, and finally we came to optimize all those formulations. Then ultimately, after making a formulation, you have to have a field testing. We did about more than 1,000 hours of kilometers, in many cases kilometers, and also 1,000 hours of testing in the engine benches, the field trials that we have run, the vehicles in the field also. Then, and across, while doing this invention or this formulation, we almost testified almost 70 different formulas, and after going to different 70 formulas, ultimately again I'm repeating, the two products that I'm going to talk with you is number one is the fuel, that is high performance diesel, that's extra green diesel, and second is the green combo lubricating oil. So what's the difference? How does this diesel differentiate from the conventional diesel? Number one is reducing fuel consumption, definitely, almost by 6 to 7%. Emissions, the carbon monoxide and SC reduces, that means it's good for the environment. The smooth drivability because of its high C10 number, the overall benefit to environment. And talk about the green lubricating oil, is for the design, especially for the heavy duty diesel engines, and it gives the fuel economy of almost 4 to 5% and the emission reduction also. Next one. So if we talk about the high performance diesel, what makes it better than the conventional? Anybody knows what is C10 number? C10 number means the noise which is coming from the engine in terms of knocking, just like we knock the door. So more than knocking the noise from the engine, the more inefficient is it. The lubricity of the fuel pump leads to lower friction, then the better combustion. Next one. So if we have high specifications, if we compare the conventional diesel, that we have higher octane rating, higher lubricity, and the corrosion rating is also higher as compared to conventional. That means the life of the different parts in the engine will be much more as compared to a conventional engine. Besides many others, we don't have so much of time. Next one. So ultimately, we want to conclude for this for a lot of field trials with well-known OEMs like Volvo, Eicher, Tata, Mahindra. We're going to discuss that. So when we talk about the green lubricants, basically these are the three different products that we are going to promote, which are energy efficient, fuel efficient, and also environment friendly. One is the engine oil Fe10W30. It's about 10W30 means the lubrication viscosity. Then synchro, that is the transmission oil. Then the axle oil 80W90. So these are three important part of the any driveline any of the vehicle is having. That means the engine, the transmission box, and the axle. Next one. So what happens is that how do we work? How does this lubricant work? It reduces the friction between the mating metal parts. That means when we decrease the viscosity, the friction between the metal parts also decreases. So by optimizing the viscosity, we have reduced the fuel consumption. Next one. So these are the different grades that we were having earlier for the BS6 diesels, and this is the new grades that we are supplying. I think many of the people might be using and they are not using. These are the different grades that we are supplying. Next one. So the name apart, the name basically it is what we have done after formulating this lubricant. We are not coming just like that. We have gone to different laboratories for testification, for validation, and for the field trials. We went for ICAT, India, that is the Automotive Testing Institute at Manesar, where they have a road tracks. You can see on that left top corner, there are road tracks are there, where we ran the vehicle for almost 10,000 kilometers, 20,000 kilometers to understand what sort of fuel economy is providing. Then we have a transient test benches where we make the engine stand over there and we rotate only the wheels and we try to know what is the fuel economy that is provided by the fuel. We have done all those tests and we have got a certification from International Center for Automotive Technology that is located at Manesar. And what we have got, next one. While testing on these vehicles, when we talk about the Haryana roadways, we got a fuel economy of 9%. That's a huge. And we talk about this ICAT Manesar, they had given almost 7%. You can see over there. Next one. Then we also tested on Ashok Leyland. It's not we got limited only to Volvo Eicher. We tried all the OEMs which are there in the automotive market for heavy commercial vehicles. Then we went for Ashok Leyland, and there also we got something like 5.78% increase in fuel economy while using these lubricants. Next one. How does it work? Like it's not a black box. We are trying to tell you how does it work. You can see these injectors. If anybody has opened, suppose you go for servicing of your vehicles, if it's a diesel vehicle, that the gentleman who is the foreman or the mechanic, he takes out this injector. If you can see over there, these injectors, the holes of the injectors, which are the tip of the injector, they're all blocked there. So they're not able to make a proper spray. And with the absence of proper spray, the combustion, mixing of the fuel and air is incomplete, leading to incomplete combustion. That means more generation of carbon monoxide and the SC emissions. Is a very common thing that we can observe. It's just like that, if suppose you have an LPG burner, and if you don't have a proper setting of the holes, what will happen is that it consumes more of LPG. That's why the person comes to you and say that you have to clean your LPG burner stove so that you have less consumption of LPG. Similarly, in this case also, at the top you can see there is a conventional diesel, and at the bottom you can see it's an extra green diesel, and you can find the main difference between the cleanliness of those two injectors. So this is one of the methods we improve the combustion efficiencies, that is by increasing the cleanliness inside the engine. Next one. Then we went for Ashok Leyland for this another vehicle for different gross weight. We have a different LCVs, MCVs, and CVs depending on different type of gross weights that they're having. We went for another one. Again, we found the fuel economy of 9.26% at a different location. Next one. We also went for emission testing, because if you are going to say that it is fuel efficient is also good for the environment, that means that it is the amount of carbon dioxide or other emission which is emitting should be lower than the existing conventional. So we went for the engine testing. You can see that there is a blue dynamometer is there, which is coupled to the engine, which is the extreme left. And you can see the servo barrel is there. When you put this oil over there, what you found is that the carbon monoxide, which is a silent killer, it decreased by 5.25%, and the NOx which is also another problem. It decreases by almost 5%. Next one. These are the credentials we have worked along with a lot of OEMs and many of the industries, also the off-highway, not only on-highway, but also off-highway industries. And what we have found is that for the diesel, that the extra green diesel, when we worked with Ashok Leyland, we got almost 6% of fuel economy. With the fishing vessels like near Kantla and Jamnagar, we got about 7% reduction in the fuel consumption for the fishing vessels. For using this diesel, and again we are using the green diesel as well as the lubricant, we got about 9% from Ashok Leyland. Again from at Haryana, other at ICAT we got 9%. Then the Tamil Syngent was 6%. For the JCB backhoe loaders, that means off-highway equipment, we got about 5.81%, 4.3% by the Komatsu dumpers. And the reduction in emissions was phenomenal, about 5% of carbon dioxide. It's a huge thing, because when we talk about net zero emissions, net zero carbons, this is very important for us because this is our target of India, and Indian Oil wants to achieve this target within 2046. So, and again is that the life of the injector increased because of the higher lubricity of the diesel. And also because of the high C10 number, the smoother, the noise inside, while you are sitting inside the engine, inside the vehicle, it was lower. So by all credentials, it has performed up to the expectation, more than our expectation. So this is a complete package for the fuels and lubricant for the logistic industry. That's what I want to tell all of the persons who are present over here. Next one. So what we done is that when we talk about anything like technical, the question comes is that about the commercial viability. So what we have done is that we have done a commercial viability calculations for you also, so that you may have a approximate knowledge about what goes while you're going for purchasing of extra green diesel or green lubricant, what we're talking about. So suppose we are talking about any of the off-highway equipment. So if you are going to use only the green diesel, it will lead to almost 1 lakh rupees saving per vehicle per annum. If you talk about using only this green lubricant, that means only this green lubricant part, it will be something like 1.9 lakhs. And if you are going to use both of them, it will be something like 2.5 lakhs per year. You are going to have a saving. We have a calculations. In fact, we have an app also for that. So if you have a particular vehicle, if you want to calculate what will be the ultimate saving throughout a year, then it can be done very easily. We are going to provide you that. Next one. Similarly, for a commercial vehicle, if you have a HCV, any heavy commercial vehicle or a truck or something like that, and if you have a fleet of them, and you want to know how much saving you are going to go through while using these fuels or the lubricant, then also we have this calculation as well as in the form of an app also. You have to put the details of the vehicles, about the volume of the sum of the engine oil or the transmission oil or the fuel, and you will get the approximate saving. So you can see, if you go for the commercial buses, we can get almost like 1.5 to 1.7 lakhs of saving per vehicle per annum. So that's a huge thing. So what's wrong about that? So next one. So I'm going to conclude this presentation. Number one is that what we see is that by using these fuels or the lubricants, we can get almost 9 to 10% of fuel economy, and even more than that if you are going to use a combination of both diesel as well as the green combo. By using them, you can get the reduction in emissions. That means doing good for the environment. And the last and the most important part, it also enhances the life of the engine parts, that is the injector, and the reduction, the smoothness of the working of the engine also improves because it leads to reduction in noise by almost 5%. Next one. So ultimately, thank you so much. So ultimately, I want to contribute is that if you are really thinking about the environment, if you are really thinking about seriously about net zero carbon emissions of this world, if you are really thinking about reducing the global warming, impact of global warming on this planet Earth, and if you are really concerned about saving money by using these type of products, then this is the right place, and Indian Oil has the right product for you. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Srivastava. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the second session of the day, and the session is on private participation in building multimodal infrastructure. Our key discussion points of session 2 will be: can the PPP route be successful in building multimodal infrastructure? Question 2 would be: how different should be the PPP framework for logistics parks as compared to ports? The third question would be, what do the investors say and what is stopping them from investing in a big way? We would also discuss what is the perspective of the service providers in this matter and what are the current policy constraints and execution constraints and how can they be addressed. To discuss and debate on the topic, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome the speakers and the dignitaries on stage. First, Mr. Rudra Sriram, Director, DCM Containers and Engineering Private Limited. Mr. Sriram is a fifth-generation entrepreneur, promoting the DCM Sriram legacy and currently managing a dynamic sheet metal fabrication and engineering design facility. Skilled in data analytics, debottlenecking and engineering management, he is a hardworking and committed professional with a BSc focused in economics from Purdue University, Cranwell School of Management. His natural business acumen, education at the Purdue University and exposure and experience in the USA has helped him to bring stature and exuberance to the organization and transform HPGPL into a modern manufacturing plant. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rudra Sriram here for session 2. Joining him on stage is Mr. Prashant Goyal, Managing Director, Faith Lumber Private Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Prashant did his MBA from IT in Mumbai and comes with an experience of more than 22 years in the timber industry. His company, Faith Lumbers, is recognized as one of the leading organizations in the Kandla-Mundra belt, offering unique and quality products. He is also credited with starting timber exports on a large scale from Mundra and also for introduction of value addition in the domestic market. Mr. Prashant Goyal, welcome to the session. Thank you for joining us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome Mr. Kiran Nandre, CEO Round the Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a visionary professional with 28 years of experience, out of which the last 20 years was dedicated to the Indian coastal and short sea shipping trade. He has taken relentless efforts in promoting and developing coastal and short sea shipping in India. He worked with corporates like Transworld, Jindal, Sematech, JM Baxi, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Kiran Nandre with us. Welcome, sir. Joining us on the dais is Captain Mohit Chaturvedi, National Head Sales and Business Development, Container Terminal, JM Baxi. With over 20 years of experience in ports and logistics domains, Captain Mohit Chaturvedi's areas of responsibility have encompassed supply chain operations, international logistics, container port operations, feeder operations, port infrastructure development and management. In his present role as National Head Sales and Business Development, Container Terminals, he is responsible for reinforcing and improving the execution of sales strategy and the business development of Container Terminal, including CFS and ICDs. Captain Mohit's last employment was with Adani Port Special Economic Zone as Head India Container Sales. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome Captain Mohit Chaturvedi, who is already on the dais. Joining us on stage, Mr. Samir Hosangadi, Head of Strategic Logistics and Sustainability Projects, APM Terminals Private Limited, Pipavav. Mr. Samir is responsible for developing landside infrastructure and sustainability projects at APMT, Pipavav. He has over 25 years of experience in the logistics and supply chain industry in India and Southeast Asia with the AP Monomers Group, Brinks and Agility Logistics. In his current role at APM Terminals Pipavav, Samir is involved in the development of a privately owned multimodal park in close proximity to the port of Pipavav. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Samir Hosangadi is joining us on stage. Welcome, sir. We'll move on to our next speaker, Mr. Kirti Soni, President, All India Container Manufacturers Association and former President of Saurashtra Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Soni, ladies and gentlemen, is actively associated with Saurashtra Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Bhavnagar, since many years and held various responsible positions like Managing Trustee of Saurashtra Chamber Trust, President, Honorable Secretary and Honorable Treasurer of the Chamber, Chairman, Post and Telecommunication Committee, EC member elected as GCCI, member Container Manufacturing Coordination Committee, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Director, Suvardeep Credit Cooperative Society, Bhavnagar, and Trustee Treasurer of Kalakshetra, Bhavnagar. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mr. Kirti Soni joining us. We'll now move on to our next speaker, Dr. Darshan Mashru, Director at EPT Global Logistics Private Limited. Dr. Mashru brings more than 18 years of experience in freight forwarding customer customs clearance, ODC cargo handling, and transportation. He is a qualified customs broker and certified trainer by Logistics Skill Council, Government of India. As the director of EPT Global, he leads the Indian operations of the company. As an academician and advisor, he partners with the institutions to share his industry knowledge and expertise with university students and industry professionals. He is also the Honorable Secretary of Ahmedabad Custom Brokers Association, Executive Committee member of Federation of Freight Forwarders Association. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Darshan Marshall joining us on stage. Welcome, sir. And now, ladies and gentlemen, over to our moderator of the session. But that reminds me that we've not heard an applause for quite a long time. I was so busy reading the profiles that I forgot to remind you. Please give them a loud round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. These gentlemen here are going to debate the most important topics right now. We have Mr. Radha Krishnan Iyer, Managing Director, Fast Track CFS Private Limited here today to moderate the session and to set the tone of the discussion. Mr. Radha Krishnan is an expert in techno-commercial operations with working knowledge, having wide and diverse experience in the field of total integrated logistics solutions, including shipping, warehousing, CFS management and operations, rail, road transport dynamics, multimodal planning and integration techniques. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mr. Radha Krishnan Iyer. Over to moderate the session. Let's give the panel a loud round of applause as they're going to be beginning this session. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I think I can say good evening, everybody. Now it's more than 5. And yes, I have been given a task by C-Trade, who is organizing this wonderful summit here today, which is actually the need of the hour, I would say. See, I have been in this industry for more than 3.5 decades. But let me tell you that every decade we saw some changes, some developments in this country related to logistics. As Mr. Sameer was telling that, every decade there is differences, but this particular decade I must talk that there is a rapid change, and which is going to take us to a next level in the maybe a maximum of 1 more decade, and we are now going to be ready to be at par with the global logistics performance indexes, I would call it that way. And then the session which I have been asked to conduct is private participation in building multimodal infrastructure. Now, I'm sorry that I met all these gentlemen only today, so I need to have their names here in front of me because I either tell their name wrongly or maybe address them somewhere wrongly. So that's the reason I'm keeping it here. I just interacted with everybody just now. Sorry. And I'm very fortunate to have such a beautiful panel for this apt topic. And I should thank you, sir, Mohandas, sir, for such a this thing, which I feel that this is very need of the hour for the logistic industry in India. And I have been talking about this while interacting with private players, LSPs, logistics service providers, or the government body, for that matter, even the policy makers. Why I say this? Because we keep talking about, I agree with Mr. Sameer of the earlier session that he was telling that where do we arrive this number of this 14% and 15%? Maybe it is higher, maybe it is lower, there is some study required. But sir, let me tell you, maybe this is now possible because there is a department created. And they have started doing all these things. And maybe somewhere they have started quoting these numbers now. So this has to come down, and the logistic cost definitely, whether it is 14%, 15% or 10%, it is very high in India. And for that, the answer is, these logistic parks, multimodal. When we say multimodal, it doesn't only mean that air, sea, road, rail and coastal and all together. There are various services which has to be which a cargo undergoes. And before it actually, from the time of manufacturing till the end user is using it, there is various forms of services provided to this cargo. And that is where this multimodal logistics, it's only not multimodal way of transport, multimodal logistics parks are needed. So that is where we are going to discuss what are the problems and what are the hurdles faced by the private PPP model, because everything the government cannot build. Everything government, but at the same time, there has to be a handholding by the government with these PPP investors. So that is what we are going to discuss, and we have eminent speakers and analysts here who does not need any more introduction from my side, because their elaborate introductions have been done. And I would just like to start with Mr. Samir. Sir, since you are already one of the MMLP, if I call it correctly, multimodal logistic park operator, you can share your experience about setting up of this multimodal logistic park and what all you are doing presently, or what you anticipate, and what you feel the users must be looking forward to you when you are interacting with the customers.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, India Secret, for inviting me here. I represent APM Terminals Pipavav. We run the port at Pipavav, and we have actually collaborated, to use the same word from the last session, with a local entrepreneur and a CFS operator to develop the first multimodal logistics park in Saurashtra. I am pleased to inform you that at least the first warehouse of phase 1 of that multimodal logistics park will be ready in the next couple of weeks. And clearly this session and the entire, I would say, whole concept behind today's event resonates with what we've been doing, at least I have been involved with over the last more than a year. Now, going back to your question related to what we've experienced, so I must confess that in terms of government approvals, government support, when it comes to setting up the multimodal park, the direction, the clearances, we've been, I think the government has been extremely supportive, and we've been able to get those permissions. At least our partner has been able to get those permissions in record time. So, I must thank the authorities for, although this is a relatively new concept in India, but they do definitely support entrepreneurs, not only very large companies, but medium-sized, I would say, operators in the logistics business. So that's been a very positive development, which I have been able to witness. In terms of land and land availability, that is also something which, either it's again a collaborative effort between the promoter and the government, or in many cases the government also has that land which is made available to these promoters. So all in all, I think it's been a great start. To some of the questions which were raised in terms of what we would like to discuss in the current forum, I would say that the gestation period for these multimodal logistics parks, I mean that is always a question mark. And that is due to the fact that there are multiple stakeholders involved in making it a success. We could build a fantastic grade A warehouse, we could have all the infrastructure around it, carbon neutral, we are placing the best equipment possible. But then the first mile, last mile is something which goes a little beyond a multimodal logistics park operator. So if you're looking at roads, for instance, we have excellent roads in Gujarat. But I must confess that the roads in Saurashtra, and particularly near our port, definitely need to improve and turn into all-weather roads. And you have some road work done, it works for probably 6-7 months of the year, and at the moment you have the monsoons, then many of these roads get impacted so badly that it impacts the throughput and it impacts transit times. So clearly, I think the government can do a little more in ensuring that the infrastructure leading to the multimodal logistics park is also made at the same standards and the same expectations they have in terms of reducing logistics costs, which I believe is now the current, I would say, concern which most of us have to deal with. So roads is one thing. I also believe that when it comes to rail, as a port, we have been fortunate to be connected with the DFC, one of the first ports we connected to the DFC. An excellent, I would say, initiative again by the railways, where you're talking about also reducing carbon footprint and also bringing about efficiencies, because you can run double stack trains at twice the speed of what you were doing in the past. But then we also come back to certain issues like pricing. We are still competing with road, we are still competing with truckers, because trucking and truckers from the north of India and the northern hinterland are significantly cheaper than the costs which are incurred when we move this to the DFC. So one of our expectations when the DFC was conceptualized and executed was that we will get some benefit from moving double stack trains, from moving it on electric power. And I believe that that's another area where the government can look at things a little more holistically, because you build a nice multimodal logistics park near port. Clearly we want to develop the hinterland around the port, but then if your connectivity is not efficient, if your connectivity is not cost effective, then people are not going to use the multimodal logistics park. They're going to go back to the old ways. They will probably send it by truck, or they'll send it by rail from the northern hinterland. So I think a more holistic approach towards the multimodal concept, whether it is infrastructure around, whether it is rail and air. Somebody pointed out, we have very few airports in Gujarat which can actually service a multimodal product. Ahmedabad is probably the closest what we have at airport. But then you have a number of smaller airports where you really don't have any cargo capacity or cargo facility. So that's something which I think again the government can support, because when we talk multimodal, it's not only ocean and it's not only rail. We also have air, which plays a significant role, and then of course the whole concept of coastal waterways and coastal connectivity. Some concept which many of us here are relatively new to. I believe there is a gentleman here who can probably throw more light on that. So for now, I think I will end there. And
I had one last question further to this, because since you are already operating one MMLP, is what are the customers expecting more from you, or what are you offering to them presently?
So in terms of expectations, I think it comes down to transparency. I think they definitely, customers want to see how this entire concept is going to benefit them from the old system, which we've been quite used to over the years. And that transparency will come only if all the stakeholders who work with us, because the multimodal park, again, I'm coming back to the same question, is not just bricks and mortar around the warehouses we run. It's also about the operators who are going to work with the multimodal, whether it's the shipping line, whether it's the port which we run, or it's the train and the truck operators. So I think that level of transparency between us and that collaborative effort between us will make multimodal more successful. It's not something which it's nice on PowerPoints and it's nice to commit something, but if I want to execute and I want to deliver on the customer promise, then I will need that collaborative effort from all the stakeholders.
Somewhere are you also not realizing that this is the MMLP is something like an umbrella body, and there are various types of service providers within that, and jointly it has to be run. That is what I think you are trying to conclude at. Looking at the customers, it is not only the transport, it is not only the movement of cargo, there are various services, various things are provided to the customer. So maybe not everything can be done by the developer or the MMLP operator. That's right. So it's like coexisting with other service providers. Is that what?
Yes, so I just want to bring back a parallel to the free trade warehousing zone. This was a concept which came up probably around 2009, 2010, and we had a couple of very large operators who established PW zone. At that time, it was a flavor of the era. People were trying to compare what we could do in India with Singapore or in Hong Kong or wherever. This is almost a very, very common, I would say, logistics product. But one of the reasons, in my view, that they didn't really take off the way we wanted them was because all the stakeholders did not really work together. And there was a certain lack of transparency when it came to costing, when it came to how ultimately that product was priced with the end customer. So customers were wary of using this facility because they felt or they perceived that the rates and the cost of this kind of a facility are very high. And that's something we want to clear. That misconception has to be cleared on multimodal logistics park at an early stage. Otherwise, they will remain, very expensive, high-end warehouses, which most people are wary of using.
Captain Chaturvedi, here we have related to the same MMLP. I will just take it up further because we don't want it to get a little discontinued. There is one MMLP already operational. The other thing is, nowadays you'll see all the big terminals and like your DP World, everybody is trying to come up with end-to-end logistics. Maybe they are also looking at setting up these kind of multimodal logistics parks and all. So where do you see the problem while setting up of MMLPs and in terms of investments coming through, in terms of the gestation period as you mentioned, and in terms of land acquisition, because this is not going to be something small, because you're going to have a huge park where all sorts of services are provided. So you'll definitely must be looking at these projects now. Maybe you are at a, all the terminals are looking at this. So how do you look at it? And in terms of not only investment, in terms of hurdles, or in terms of land acquisitions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Iyer, and thank you, CTRADE, for inviting me and conducting this summit, which is again much needed one at this time. Yeah, so just to answer your question, where that first of all, as a terminal operator, one thing we must understand that sort of terminal operators. One is the infrastructure base, and one are what is the facility provider. Like for example, if you call DP Worlds and NREs, they are sort of an infrastructure base. The likes of AP Moller, APM Terminals, and JM Bakshi, they are more of a service provider. So having said that, we would be very keen to be part of end-to-end logistics. I'm not very sure whether...
I think you're graduating into infrastructure developers too.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. So we are relatively new in that. So till now we are not taking any greenfield projects. We are taking the brownfield projects which are more or less up and ready, and just using our skill and expertise to make it more efficient. And having said that, the idea of whether we would like to part in MMLPs, yes, we would love to be part of MMLPs. I'm not very sure whether we are ready today to provide an end-to-end solution, but yes, we are a long way ahead to be a very important partner in that. When it comes to hindrances in investment and acquisitions, although government has taken a very bold and very constructive step of Gati Shakti, whereby things are moving at a right pace, but the only thing which is lacking yet is the transparency. So today, if I want to acquire any land, I know the things will move faster than they were moving in yesteryears, but I will not know where they are stuck. So that is one thing we would like, as a stakeholder, that transparency between the government and the private stakeholders should be there. Regarding investment, again, they are both interrelated. As soon as you have a transparent working style or investment style, the investment will flow. So again, as I said, that we'll be very keen to be part of MMLP as much as we can.
Yeah, I asked this question as a common question to all the terminals, not particular to your company. Many terminals, everybody is thinking on these lines. And that's the reason I asked you, what you anticipate and what is the problem. I'm sure you are aware that now government is talking about, giving a land on a long lease basis so that, it's auctioned and it's done in a very transparent tender basis, and then you are asked to develop it. So that's where I was asking about this, and not only your organization, maybe in general. So that's going to happen, it seems.
Yes, so like I answered, we'll be very keen to participate in those sort of projects, like we are participating in ports today, whether it is Nhava Sheva or Tuticorin or Kandla or Haldia or Vizag, Visakhapatnam. So we'll be very keen participating in that. And the support what we see from the government is, like I said, the transparency and the ease and the pace of the process.
See, one more thing which the MMLPs would be doing is, it's not only going to be a port-based or an exim-based facility. It's going to be something like you have an area where there is warehouses, where there is various other models of transport, and then There is the exim handling facility, there is a domestic handling facility, then there is a lot of you can do, cargo acquiring, and then central depots and
Consolidation
created. And exim will be part of that. So not necessarily, it may be port based tomorrow, it may be somewhere in the eastern based also, and MLPs can be created. So related to that, I would like to ask Mr. Kiran, Andre, we are talking about multimodal. Okay, there will be cargo moving by truck, by rail, by road, by air. Okay, but what about the role? How do you see coastal shipping contributing in this? Because the multimodal logistics hub, it should be a huge infrastructure where many people are able to give their services, and that will make the cost effective. It will reduce the cost because everybody can create one infrastructure for themselves and do it. So there is one huge infrastructure where all the service providers can be. In that perspective, how do you see a coastal shipping road coming into the picture?
Yeah, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Any multimodal operation without coastal is incomplete, because unless you have the shipping as a lead and rail and road is complementing the transport, it is not going to be completed. So any multimodal transaction should have at least more than two modes. When it started maybe 20 years back, it was merely road-sea combination. But after the private container train operators entry, now we could penetrate the hinterlands, and now the model is road-rail-sea combination. Recently, last year, we tried road-rail-sea and short-sea combinations also. So it works, even though it was a pilot. I will just give an example. A cargo moving from Kishangarh in Rajasthan and going to Calicut district, Kerala, 2200 kilometers. We tried the pilot using three modes, that is small coastal ship, a coastal ship and a rail. The cargo only traveled 100 kilometers by road and 2100 kilometers by the other modes, which are the green, economic, ecological and energy efficient modes. So that is the way we have to look at multimodal. See, we have to take both in consideration, multimodal, and now the new definition is intermodal. If we talk of container movement, using a single container from Punjab, picking by truck, coming to Ludhiana, coming to Kandla Mundra port, going by a coastal ship to Kerala, Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh, again going by rail and road. So this kind of combination will be intermodal. So if we logically look at last 70 years before the container was invented, and Western countries picked up it 70 years back. We Indians, we picked up only 20 years back. So whether it is container train, whether it is coastal shipping in India, it picked up in only last 20 years. So if we look at, we are far behind. We would have picked up multimodal. We were selling multimodal, that was very tough 20 years back. Now people know that yes, multimodal is available in India. Now we have to take a leap forward for intermodal. So it's road, rail, sea combination. And I have created a new thought, that is green freight corridor. Green freight corridor means minimizing the road and rail transportation, maximizing the sea and rail, and to see the optimum utilization, whereby everybody was talking reduction in freight. So that will only come by optimum combination. We have 200 minor and 14 major ports. And out of the 26 are effective container terminals like DP World, APM, J. Bakshi Group, Adani, all these leaders, they are operating 26 terminals across India. So if we talk of domestic logistics, it has to be a model. The major portion should be the waterborne transport, the secondary portion should be the rail, and the tertiary portion should be the road. And road rail should think coastal is not my competition. They should say, I am complementing the mode. We have to learn complementing, then only this intermodalization will happen. If we have to go for that leap, to be an intermodal, multimodal, the next step, intermodal. So we'll have to look at integrating all coastal shipping liners, the CFS and multimodal park operators, the rail container train operators, all the road transport operators has to come and synergize one service or create one model. And that has to be presented. That will automatically reduce the cost. It should be the ideal platform to come together. That is what my state for coastal side.
Yeah, and I have a related question to you is, for setting up these kind of services, do you think that already we have all the government support and the procedures and policies in place already, or do you feel that there is some more to be done?
See, government is giving from policy point of view. End of the day, the private operators has to come together if we have to really succeed the concept.
I agree, but what happens is the private people will come and invest only if the policies and other things are in place. So whether that is there.
See, coastal shipping, all the policies are clear, known to the world. Rail transportation known to everybody. So it's a matter of creating, actually, see, the awareness about coastal transportation is available in India is not there.
Maybe that means it is just...
That is one reason, if you see, only 6 or 7% is moving by waterborne transport in India. But if we seriously look at it, 5% out of that is the liquid cargo and the fertilizers and the break bulk cargo. So logically, 1% of the country's transport takes place. But let me appreciate on the other side. Exactly 20 years back, it started with 20 containers per month. Now, during 20 or 22, we will talk around, we are carrying 3 lakh containers across the coast, right from Mundra up to Calcutta.
It's at the takeoff stage.
It was a taking off stage. 2015 onwards, it took off very well. 20 and 21 we faced the obstacle, but again we are gearing up and coming back to the track. So it's the right time to be an intermodal operator. My colleagues sitting here from the coastal trade, I would request them, let us leap for the intermodalization. Let us bring the container train operators, road operators and the coastal operators together and create a synergy. We can create a model which will deliver the cost reduction, the high efficient product for India, which is needed.
Now related, there is a business opportunity for a gentleman sitting next to me. I have a question to you. I will come to Rudra Sriram also because he's also got a similar manufacturing thing. Containers, we always say that container means it's a shipping containers and, looking at manufacturing, Inco container, there was a lot of debate when we had a huge freights have gone up recently during pandemic and freights have gone up to 6 times, 8 times, and there was a debate and in newspapers there was an article continuously that we should manufacture containers, we should have more shipping lines and all. And I believe there was a meeting on Monday in Delhi between ministers that we should have our own shipping lines. How many more shipping lines? No. So I am asking you, sir, that do you see the opportunity of manufacturing containers more to be used in the domestic, like for coastal, for domestic movements, because I have come across many customers who have seen that while DPD is getting fully implemented, they want, in the port itself, the cargo gets domesticated and it gets into the container and brought. So there will be a direct cost control and cost efficiency of time, cost and procedural things, and there will be a huge demand of domestic containers as well. Are you feeling that? Are you seeing this as an opportunity also?
Yes. Before replying to your questions, I'll take a few of the minutes from all of you, because I'll give you some brief about the past year, let's say how the entire thing came in the picture. It is the time when I was a chamber president at Bhavnagar, Saurashtra Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the pandemic time. Then at that time, our prime ministers, because we all have seen the importance of containers. Friends, I am not from your fraternity, I am not that much conversant with the logistic. But this is the COVID gave me an opportunity, as it has happened with a lot many people, that to learn what is the importance of logistics and how the containers can be useful to the Indian economy. So at that time, we have got so many parameters and considerations, in favor of the country as well as in favor of my territory, that's Bhavnagar, based at Saurashtra region. Because we have got a shipping minister from Bhavnagar. Then PM made an announcement that yes, our EXIM business has affected a lot just because of the container availability. That is where the entire thing has happened, and I have entered in the market that to learn what the things can be done. Because at the time I was a chamber president. Bhavnagar is well known for the steel scrap supplies to the country because of Alan. We have a shipbreaking industry over there, so that the steel based know-how is already over there. And then as a chamber, I took an opportunity, I took challenges to meet the commitments basically. See, then I studied that what is the use of container. Because see, the entire cargo being handled in front of my eyes, I have seen in an open truck. Most of the road transportations are being done in the open trucks. Even as of now, the things are there. Because that leads to an accident, that leads to so many other problems also. It's not only about the cost curtailment and the other thing, but then the containerized cargo will help a lot in other way also. Life saving, product saving, and I was just reading that the cargo theft, that's a very major issue being handled by the logistic people, which has not been addressed anywhere in this session. But again, that the containerized cargo will help to reduce that also. So there is no doubt that yes, manufacturing container in India will be a big business in the coming days, whether it's a domestic usage or whether it's an EXIM business. But at the same time, there are such challenges. We were trying since last 3 years. At that time, in the first meeting, when all the people were sitting together, we made a list of the problems. There was some 15 points were there. Because we don't have that skill levels, was not available. Classification agencies, there were some issues. They were not even equipped to provide the things in time. So many other factors were there. Raw material itself was a problem. As of now, today, I personally feel happy that by spending my 2.5 hours in this journey, yes, we are pending with a few points only, and that's a 1 or 2 points. The major point is the cost comparison with the international market and the domestic, because if we want to promote these industries in India, as a ministry is saying, our PM is telling that yes, make in India to promote in the manufacturing level and to have reached this 5 trillion economy, all the things are important. But the point is that whenever they are making the policies, government takes a lot of time to implement the policy. So there need to be a pace to be maintained along with the industry's requirement. So that's a major point to my opinion. Another thing is, yes, the government perception is changed. People have started working with the different aspects. They are also more responsible. But is it fulfilling the expectations of the industry? That is also an important factor. As my colleague said that yes, in PPP, a lot of people are involved, a lot of things are there. But you see, whenever the industries are planning to have the investments, at that time, they are projecting their projects with investment and then the return on that. Along with that, some announcement have been done. They consider that things and they are expecting to have that announcement to be formalized in the documentation, which is not happening in time, and that leads to a loss. Because for an industry's investment is an investment. If I spend a rupee, that definitely my expenditure starts right from day one. So that's the major thing. Otherwise, yes, opportunity is there. Domestic market will grow up like anything, because that is what I understand from the today. I am here in the hall right from the first hour, that multimodal logistics will give a best opportunity for the container manufacturing in the country. That is true.
Maybe the same question to you, Mr. Rudra, on the business opportunities for the container manufacturers, especially the domestic movement of cargo in containers?
So, our journey as DCM getting into containers in '93, it's going to be 30 years this year that we even looked at this market. It was, with a lot of promise. It was set up in '93 to manufacture 20,000 TEUs annually. But we're still trying to meet that dream. Yes, there's a lot of optimism. If you personally ask me, I think we missed the bus for this session. Because if you wanted India to be a global container manufacturing hub in August last year, it should have been done by October. We're already sitting in February. If you monitor the prices of containers, and I'm sorry, but you cannot include pandemic prices when you talk about containers. That's only 2 years. Over a 70-year journey of containers, you cannot justify that price. I think we're very far from being competitive in an international scale. I don't mean to sound pessimistic or negative, but it's a fact. We cannot compete on a global level. First, we have to take baby steps. We have to be able to supply and meet our Atmanirbharta. We have to make Indian users, and the gentleman sitting on the stage with me and the companies that they are representing or owning, we have to give them product. Work on very different models that before international competition we are very far. There is a 95% domination of this market by one country. Everyone knows who that country is. I'm not really hiding anything by not taking a name. The 5% is also not with India. Actually, that 1% is also not with India. So where are we going to be a global container manufacturing hub? We're very far away. Let us become a container manufacturing hub in the first place. For our domestic users, our coastal carriers, our NVOCCs, our CTOs, and I must say, if there is any industry today, it is because of the private CTOs. If there's any revival of what was supposed to be a large manufacturing and a job creation industry, because container manufacturing in India till this date and for the next decade or so, I see, will be a labor-intensive activity. You're not going to get into robotic welding from the first year unless someone is just throwing money at a problem, and that's not the solution all the time. So, let's forget to compete with Maersk container industry and CIMC and Sigmas. Let's start somewhere. And there are many people in India, coastal carriers, NVOCCs, CTOs, who have a huge requirement within the country, and they don't want to wait on the timelines of getting containers from China. So that is the first. So, it comes down to, you have to keep things simple. If you try and jump to become a global, you're going to fall flat on your face. You have to first, crawl, then walk, then run, and then maybe you can fly. So, coming back to manufacturing in India, you were talking about incentives and whatnot, and as we all talk about, you talk about PPP, or you talk about government-based subsidy on long-term land lease and all that. This should be offered to container manufacturers as well. Why not? I mean, by the end of it, if you want us to service an industry which has so much growth, we talk about Gati Shakti, a 2% move of road cargo to rail cargo requires close to 14,000 TEU. If the government wants to reach, or whichever government wants to reach 50% rail cargo by 2030, that's 7 years down the line. I mean, everyone can do the math. You've got to add 14,000 TEU per annum. Then after 2 years, that original 14,000 TEU from the year before have to be serviced also. So there is it's a very big chunk of the intermodal industry which will require support itself. So I don't think for the next decade we should even consider looking at the global market. I think there's enough work for 8 to 10 to 15 container manufacturers of various scales within our country itself. So, before you fly, you have to learn to walk and crawl. And that's the way I would suggest to move forward in such a way.
For the domestic container increasing, how do you look at it with this MMLPs?
Sir, it's very simple. The more infrastructure that's created around logistics, your speed, your efficiency of logistics is going to increase. whichever mode of logistics you use, whether you use a multimodal or you use rail or road or coastal carriage. For that, you require ISO containers to do the movement. So if your speed is going to increase, your turnaround time is going to decrease, you're going to need inventory to be able to move those containers. So again, unfortunately, there's not much research done on how many containers will exactly be required. But I mean, just throw a number out there of 14,000 for every 2% moving from road to rail. It's a calculated number. It's very public information. Concor has asked for 50,000 in the next 3 years, which I don't see how they're going to order it because there's no PO out till now for this right now. And personally, if you ask me, the privatization of Concor will be one of the biggest steps for container manufacturing in India. Because if you look at your private CTOs, they don't order just from me, they order from 4 or 5 other companies, and they give chances to the new, let's say, technocrat or the new entrepreneur who's getting into manufacturing of containers. They can, let's give them a chance, let's give them 50 container orders, let's give them 100 container orders, let them start, learning the ropes of doing it. Concor does not do that, they cannot do that. Because they have to follow the whole, the unfortunately archaic L1 and tender and all that. Now that tender comes in April, is open in September. The steel prices have gone on a yo-yo ride and come back by then. So I think the private, if that same volume that Concor has to procure containers, if that was in the hand of any private company, I'm not going to take a name that should be this company or that company, any private company, their procurement mindset or their, let's say, procurement capability is so different, right? And timelines, right? They need containers now. That means they're not just going to give an order to DCM. They're going to give an order to TCM, Simcon, blah, blah, blah. Every manufacturer will get something out of it, which motivates an industry. That's how you create an industry. Otherwise, you're one.
They must look at their timeline and make an order. That's how the decision is made. Unfortunately, that you mean to say it cannot happen in the government.
They have to follow a system of procurement which is laid down. Now, in that, what happens is that when you talk about giving, let's say, opportunity to an MSME all the way from a micro to a medium, or even to, let's say, a large manufacturer, the opportunity spreads when it's in the hand of a private player because they also have the wherewithal, the imagination that, okay, if I can get, let's say, 50,000 boxes in 1 year, spread over 10 manufacturers, apart from getting 50,000 boxes in 4 years, if that, because let me tell you, there's no capability in India for anyone to manufacture even 10 to 15,000 boxes a year. I will challenge any manufacturer to manufacture 6,000 boxes per year, including my own team. So, we have to look at brass facts over here. Not just theoretical numbers ki aap line laga loge to aise move out. It doesn't work like that. That's not manufacturing.
The major factor is meeting the timelines.
Right, meeting the timelines. It's not as simple as making a box.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of, a lot of, I give my team not enough credit that there's a lot of sophistication and fair amount of mechanical engineering and industrial engineering that goes into making containers.
Yeah.
It's not as easy that you've just joined 4 panels and here's a box, so move it on a merged line and 9 stack high with that much load on it. But it's unfortunately treated like that. So, yeah.
And we are coming one by one operator who is already operating an NLP and is trying to come into this field, but then what all can be integrated into this. And in that line, I have Dr. Darshan. That is, you are doing freight forwarding and you are one of the LSP for EXIM trade. But when the FMLP will come up, don't you think that even as LSP of EXIM Cargo as a service provider, you have the opportunity to integrate even EXIM and domestic in this kind of facilities, and how do you look at this facility and with your customer's perspective?
Namaskar, very good evening to all of you. I would like to conclude one sentence with the speech of Rudra. In logistics industry, success only happens if your action at the rate of a speed of a thoughts. So if you miss the bus one day, then you're gone. If you miss the half an hour of your vessel cutoff, your entire week gone. So talking about the success of a multimodal logistics park, first of all, we have to upgrade mindset of our client. We have to adopt the new technology and new concept. We have to convey the facility and benefits to our client. If our client doesn't know about the multimodal logistics park, they cannot adopt such kind of the facility. We are in Gujarat. All Gujarati are pakka businessmen. What exporters doing nowadays? What importer is doing nowadays? If he may require the facility of a warehousing, first of all, he will not knock the door of any of the CFS or a multimodal logistics service provider. He will buy a land of a few crores, which is exactly next to his factory, and build a third-class warehouse. He will not go for a first-class logistics, all the services which is available at a one stop. So what happens, we all are talking about the logistics cost is too much high, logistics cost is too much high. So if we are calculating the interest cost of the land and he has built a warehouse on that a few crores rupees, so it might be 80-90 rupees per square feet. While the multimodal logistics park can provide that world-class facility in a single rate or at 10-15 rupees or lower than that. So we have to educate our clients, we have to educate our customers, we have to guide them to adopt the new technology, new infrastructure at the competitive price. Also we have to guide them to adopt the superior technology, appoint a superior staff in terms of a knowledgeable staff. So first time whatever they're doing, it should be right. So any of the minute data entry mistake, it pays a huge cost in logistics industry. So simple amendment of a shipping bill or bill of entry, they have to pay huge cost as well as the time. And in addition to that, if we miss the cutoff, ultimately it will loss of 7 days. So we have to adopt the new technology. Government is also providing a few new scheme related to customs. Government has introduced a AEO program. With the help of AEO, you can adopt the direct port delivery and direct port entry. But how many importers are registered under AEO? If we are comparing with other country, our number is very less, only 5,000 approximately AEO nowadays are registered. So that is a sad story. So we have to adopt the government facility. Government has announced movers, manufacturing and other operations in customs, bonded regulations, mover scheme. But still people are hesitating to adopt the new technology. So we have to guide, we have to understand the requirement, we have to analyze that requirement, and then after we have to deliver. Then we can reduce the cost and we can reduce the time also. I am foreseeing a huge opportunity if we are guiding our clients related to multimodal logistics park, because multimodal logistics parks will provide all the services under one umbrella. It is not only shade and 4 shelters. So it is a few services. So all the stakeholders can join the hand. Ultimately, without the support of all the stakeholders, सबका साथ सबका विकास नहीं हो सकता है. So we have to welcome this multimodal logistics, and I am very much sure with the help of all the stakeholders, सबका साथ सबका विकास, we can grow and achieve the 5 trillion economy.
The last word you missed out, as in the earliest discussion it was happening, Sabka Vishwas, because that was lacking amongst us. Okay. And the last but not least, Mr. Prashant Goyal, who is actually the user of what all people talk about. He is the exporter and importer. So, okay, we are talking about multimodal logistics park, we are talking about all people coming together and offering services, and we are talking about reducing cost and everything. As an exporter and importer, you are using all these things, maybe in a fragmented manner. You are dealing with too many different people for the services and all, and when it is going to come integrated, come to you. What you are presently facing versus what do you think it is going to change for you, or do you think that this is all going on but nothing is going to change for me? My cost is my payment, what I am paying to the shipping line or the service provider or to the even transportation cost or anything is going to remain same, but how it is going to come down, I may not agree, or you may agree. How do you look at it? End user is more important. In the last year's session also I said that without a cargo owner, we all sitting here, whether LSP, MMLP, terminals, port, we are nothing without a cargo owner.
That makes me the odd one out here.
In fact, without you, what we will do by creating all these infrastructure?
First of all, I'm grateful to India Sea Trade Group for having me here for the second year. And my personal agenda to come here is actually to, regain my knowledge on English, because I get to speak to so many people and listen to so many people, especially the anchorman. And I learn a lot from your English, that's what I'm saying here. So, and thank you everybody who's here and listening us out. And to answer this question, see, I represent majorly we are into import business, and I represent the user lobby here. And when Mr. Iyer asked me that you need to share your expectations and issues that you're facing regarding logistics, so I was preparing my notes, and here there are two, three things. So the first, and I'm really trying to connect with what has happened in the last 2-3 years. So that's what I have as fresh in my mind. So we faced a lot of issues. I'm not going to pricing and freights, but we faced a lot of issues when somebody is providing service in terms of carrying our cargo. One thing that I'm surprised about is that, for example, if a shipping line we delay taking out cargo by more than 12 days, we are charged a bomb because we delayed. But there's no such penalty on shipping line if they delay your cargo by 2 months or 3 months or 1 month because the route changed. Same way we have a problem, there was no money, so what to do? So we took cargo late out, but I think if we are not heard, then we should be heard, and we should get reverse damages in case lines deliver our material in a delayed fashion, because our factory needs to run and they need to run on time. And since we are talking about being so particular on time, we should be bothered about the fact that what was the delivery time promised when the container was booked, say for example from Ecuador to Kandla, and we are into import of wood, so we are talking about wood here. But we really were very much worried last year, so containers were taking 3 months, 4 months, amazing amount of times, and there's no say, you cannot do anything about it. Second thing is about bulk shipments that are handled in Kandla for us. A lot of shipments and bulk wood, they come from Suriname, Malaysia, and all these places. So in that case, the handling that is done of the cargo, and we all are in business, so I think all of us know that the NP levels are 2% or 3% or 4%, and if you are into a monopolistic kind of a business, then I'm not talking about those people, but people damage the cargo by more than 2-3%. So most of the time, in fact many times, what we receive is damage to a level that we cannot actually earn in that cargo. And again, there's no one to listen to. You can't complain. Where to go? Because in the end, for example, if I have 100 pieces coming in my yard, the last 2, 3, 4 pieces may not come, or may come in half the length or or they may be completely cracked. It's like and they dump it and then go and they say what to do. So then I'm voicing my concerns about how the cargo is being handled and the issues that we face from logistics service providers as far as an importer I'm concerned. The third point is, since we are talking about multimodal logistics here, so I think there's a lot of knowledge gap between, see, importers and exporters. We are more concerned about the product knowledge that we are into and our market knowledge. Okay, logistics is something that we should be also aware of, but I think it's more of a subject of a clearing agent or a transporter or a shipping line. So people who are coming to our offices, if you even ask them, for example, if you ask your CHAs, if you ask your truck guy that I want to ship this cargo to Chennai by coastal ship, so he would not be able to give you any idea. And a lot of times your CHA is also not in a position to tell you what the freight would be by air or what a freight of this particular cargo to this particular city would be by the other mode, and if you want to go and book something with the railways, go yourself. So because there is no experience, I would say, in the people you are dealing with as an exporter importer, for the people who handle your logistics, since they don't know how to handle a multimodal cargo in the best way, so therefore we don't end up using them. So I think the linkage, if is not done, even after you create an infrastructure for this multimodal logistics, it will still lie underutilized. It will still not be used. Trucks, you call them, they come to your yard, they load. Aaj nahi hua to kal load ho jayega, no problem. But they will go next day and they will deliver at the doorstep of the person you want to deliver it to. So straight, and nobody has to go to any particular place and get it cleared. It has to come to your place, it has to go from your place. That's what is the convenience when you work with a trucker today rather than working in any other mode. So if this convenience factor is not brought in with any other method that we are trying to build it, then see, nobody has time, nobody will go out of the way unless there's a huge cost difference to it. Then you start investing your time. So if my cargo is today moving to Delhi, for example, at 60,000, and if I get railways at 30,000, then I will step out. At 55,000 I won't, at 50 I won't. Will be difficult because then there will be too many other costs which will eventually make it 60,000 only. Plus again breakages and handling and all those things. So this was about, I think, 2-3 points on issues that we face with logistics service providers. And there's something that I also want to add on about being a resident of Gandhidham from 23-24 years now, and representing the importer lobby here. I think when we're trying to build infrastructure, so we're trying to move cargo seamlessly, efficiently. The problem today is you can't move people to Kandla also easily. So if you want to bring a human being also from Delhi to Kandla, it becomes a problem. It is a big problem. And they don't want to come because first you tell Ahmedabad ka flight le lo, phir wahan se taxi le lena, wo kehta bhai rehna. It is not easy to come to Kandla. It is not easy to come to Bhuj. You have 1 or 2 air connecting points and you hardly reach anywhere. So how will multimodal operate when you can't even come to see that there is something happening in this area? First, human being has to be able to come to this place so that this becomes a place where people come and see and visit and then they decide what to do with this place. But right now it is very difficult. Train, imagine again going to Delhi in the train. It's recently changed the coaches in one. I think in one day it is better, and the other day my son was studying in Ajmer and my wife would hardly take that train to meet him. Otherwise she would have gone like once in every 3 months, but then she decided I'll go only once in a year. तो आपको खटमल चूहे ही परेशान कर देंगे उसमें, मतलब आप बहुत मुश्किल है कि पहुंच पाओ कहीं. So I seriously think if there is anybody from the government lobby here and can do something about it, Kandla, Bhuj and all this area really needs very proper and efficient connectivity. By train, by rail. I don't know why can't we have any Rajdhani train from Bhuj to Delhi? Why is it not there when you're trying to develop this place so much? So
you have ports, you're talking about multimodal, it should be there. And the last point that I would, and the government can in fact do it, otherwise give incentives to private people who can build these things and develop this place. So you still, if you have any problem medical, I think 99% people will go to Ahmedabad. So that is the problem with Kannada from last 23, 24 years. We are not settling all that. We don't have schools. So how will you expect people to come down here, and how will business take off? So you have to build the whole thing. It cannot be land developed and people operating. How will people come? Their families also have to come. It has to be holistic. And we face a lot of problem hiring people. So that's why I'm echoing this. And the last part is that we're talking about efficiency. We're talking about faster turnaround at ports of vessels, containers. I'm not against GST, but this point I've probably said one or two times more earlier somewhere. But what has happened after GST implementation is that the government decided to take this GST tax along with a duty at the port. Now, for example, just visualize this, that if you're importing material worth 5 crores, till 31st of June, you pay a 5% duty on 25 lakhs and you take that cargo out. And the port is free, the container is free, and next day everybody is working back. All of a sudden from 1st July, you're told, okay, 25 was duty, but now IGST, which is a GST to be paid by the importer, at the purchase point, because for importers GST is not a sales tax, it's a purchase tax. Because you bought material, paid at the port, then you get the cargo out. It is a purchase tax, and I'm repeating that very clearly. For importers, it is not a sales tax. You can sell it after 10 years, that payment is gone, it's over. So you take that cargo out. So now next day, in that 5 crores, next day I was told, now bring 18% also, get 90 lakhs. So suddenly, from 1st of July 2017, I think I'm right on the date, we were told to get another 90 lakhs each month. And if your credit cycle and business cycle is of 4 months, you're talking about around 4 crores. Who will give you 4 crores in one day? How will you start increasing volumes, and how will GDP grow, and how will your faster turnarounds happen? Things started slowing down. GST collections went up because you have to pay at 18% upfront, and sometimes at a cargo of $250, if the custom decides to charge $350 that this cargo is $350, we will not let you take it out at $250, because at some other port, some other quality was taken out at $350. So now the system is showing that this cargo is $350 minimum value, so you pay tax IGST also on that $350. So that's becoming too difficult to handle. So that's one of the things that I think is slowing down the business. So if I was in a position to take out cargo every second day, now I take probably 10 days because I need a lot of more money. And then if your cargo is not sold, so example, if I bought this and I paid that 90 lakhs, it is stuck with me till I sell this. Because this 90 lakhs will be then paid to me back by the customer who buys it. If you don't buy it, I don't get back my 90 lakhs. So I'm actually unhappy with the kind of, in the manner in which this was implemented. We will pay it on the basis of sales, right? Like the rest of India is doing it. Nobody is paying on purchase, but we, along with the duty, are paying it. Otherwise, you can't take out the cargo. And if you don't take out the cargo on time, you know what shipping lines can do to you. 15,000 or 16,000, 17,000 per day on a BL of 5 boxes, 1 lakh per day. In 30 days, you will be over. So it gets very difficult. It's not easy. So I think somebody should look into it, that this should be simplified for faster movement of cargo to get out of the ports. It's helping revenues, that I understand, but anyways, there are hundreds of ways the government has to catch people who are not paying up revenue. But taking it at the first point is quite damaging for everybody who's in the import business. Thank you.
Yes, when you see the cargo owner's perspective, you realize, okay, logistics is one of the aspect for them, but other than that, related with financials and the way they have to find market for their product and then sell it and all. This is, you know, in his entire discussion or debate, whatever he said is more percentage of the worries related to the cargo and the product. And of course, yes, at least we can, you know, we all can at least work towards giving you a little bit of a peace of mind and a little cost benefit by doing all these multimodal logistics, or by, you know, bringing in better cost-effective methods, and maybe customers to do more, so that you can concentrate more on, you know, selling your cargo or purchasing and looking market for your products. So that was a very good perspective, and I hope, unfortunately, because of the time running out, we could not have any question answer session in the audience, but maybe, with your permission, maybe one or two questions from the audience, any of the panelists. Anybody? There is no question. No. It cannot be a bouncer. Because logistics is definitely, we make it very complicated, but it is not a bouncer. Everybody understands that. But yes, in certain forums, people feel that, you know, this is very uncomfortable question, so I will not ask. So it is better that I don't get exposed. That is, yeah, they can ask us later also in personal interaction. But let me tell you one thing with my experience. Unless we speak up and tell in these kind of forums, or where we are supposed to speak, nothing is going to change. Whether we go to any government office or anybody, what we want certain things to happen. We have to say that, and nothing will change without we actually participating in some kind of. And in fact, I always feel that more than the discussions and debates, it should be more of a question answer sessions. 1 hour of question answer will throw out so many problems, and then we'll have to look at, oh, we didn't look at this, we didn't look at this. So that's what it is, like, you know, the questions asked. You may have, maybe a silliest question. Nothing is this thing. If you have something in your mind, you can clarify. And maybe I still I don't see anybody, so it's okay. So let's conclude, and thank you very much for everybody's patience in listening to us. And I sincerely thank all the panelists here. I was lucky to have such a lovely panelist, and thanks a lot to Sea Trade for organizing this event and giving us the opportunity to speak our mind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, gentlemen, for that very insightful discussion. It's quite surprising that we didn't have any questions from the audience. But anyhow, let's move on. And first of all, I'd like to invite on stage, before we disperse, I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Srinivasan, GM Navasheva Shipping, on stage to present a token of appreciation to all our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a loud round of applause as he walks up on stage. First, I request Captain Mohit Chaturvedi to kindly step forward. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a loud round of applause. Thank you so much. May I request Mr. Kiran Nandre to kindly come forward. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today on the panel. May I request Mr. Kirti Soni to kindly step forward and accept our memento. May I now request Mr. Samir Hosangadi to kindly come forward and receive the memento. May I request Mr. Prashant Goel to kindly step forward and receive the memento. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank Thank you, sir. May I request Dr. Darshan Mashnu to kindly step forward. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the panel. And now may I request Mr. Rudra Sriram to kindly come forward and accept our memento. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a loud round of applause, please. Thank you so much. And now, the moderator of our session, Mr. Radhakrishnan Iyer. May I request you to kindly step forward, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. And before we disperse, may I request all of you to kindly pose for a photograph? Yes, all of you together. Ladies and gentlemen,